existence which the Buddha proclaimed. First, that all things, in which are included our thoughts, feelings, and perceptions, are impermanent, arising when particular causes and conditions bring them into being and passing away with the emergence of new causal factors. Second, that life is pain. And third, that ultimately nothing is self-subsistent. That all forms in their essential nature are empty. That is, mutually dependent patterns of energy in flux, yet at the same time are possessed of a provisional or limited reality in time and space. In much the same way that the actions in a movie film have a reality in terms of the film but are otherwise insubstantial and unreal. Through Zazen, the first vital truth, that all component things are ephemeral, never the same from one moment to the next, fleeting manifestations in a stream of ceaseless transformation, becomes a matter of direct personal experience. We come to see the concatenation of our thoughts, emotions, and moods, how they arise, how they momentarily flourish, and how they pass away. We come to know that this dying is the life of everything, just as the all-consuming flame constitutes the life of a candle. That our sufferings are rooted in a selfish grasping and in fears and terrors which spring from our ignorance of the true nature of life and death becomes clear to anyone compelled by Zazen to confront oneself nakedly. But Zazen makes equally plain that what we term suffering is our evaluation of pain from which we stand apart. That pain, when courageously accepted, is a means to liberation in that it frees our natural sympathies and compassion even as it enables us to experience pleasure and joy in a new depth and purity. Finally, with enlightenment, Zazen brings the realization that the substratum of existence is a voidness out of which all things ceaselessly arise and into which they endlessly return. That this emptiness is positive and alive and in fact not other than the vividness of a sunset or the harmonies of a great symphony. This bursting into consciousness of the effulgent Buddha nature is the swallowing up of the universe, the obliteration of every feeling of opposition and separateness. In this state of unconditioned subjectivity I, selfless I, am supreme. So Shakyamuni Buddha could exclaim, "Throughout heaven and earth, I alone am the honored one." Yet since awakening means also an end to being possessed by the idea of an ego I, this is as much a world of pure objectivity. Therefore Dogen could write, "To learn the way of the Buddha is to learn about oneself. To learn about oneself is to forget oneself. To forget oneself is to experience the world as pure object. To experience the world as pure object is to let fall one's own body and mind and the self-other body and mind." To help awaken us to this world of Buddha nature, Zen masters employ yet another mode of Zazen, namely, the chanting of dharnis and sutras. A dharni has been described as a more or less meaningless chain of words or names that is supposed to have a magical power in helping the one who is repeating it at some time of extremity. As phonetic transliterations of Sanskrit words, dharnis have doubtlessly lost much of their profound meaning through the inevitable alteration of the original sounds. But as anyone who has recited them for any length of time knows, in their effect on the spirit they are anything but meaningless. When chanted with sincerity and zest they impress upon the heart-mind the names and virtues of Buddhas and Bodhisattvas enumerated in them, removing inner hindrances to Zazen and fixing the heart in an attitude of reverence and devotion. But dharnis are also a symbolic expression in sound and rhythm of the essential truth of the universe lying beyond the realm of the discriminating intellect. To the degree that the discursive mind is held at bay during the voicing of dharnis, they are valuable as another exercise in training the mind to cease clinging to dualistic modes of thought. The intoning of sutras, while also a mode of Zazen, fulfills yet a further purpose. Since they are the recorded words and sermons of the Buddha, sutras do in some degree make a direct appeal to the intellect. Thus for those whose faith in the Buddha's way is shallow, the repeated chanting of sutras eventually leads to a measure of understanding. And this serves to strengthen faith in the truth of the Buddha's teachings. In another sense, sutra chanting can be compared to an oriental ink painting of, say, a pine tree in which most of the picture consists of white space. This empty space corresponds to the deeper levels of meaning of the sutras which the words adumbrate. Just as in the picture our minds are brought to a heightened awareness of the white space because of the tree, so through the reciting of sutras we can be led to sense the reality lying beyond them, the emptiness to which they point. During the chanting of sutras and dharnis, each of which varies in tempo, the chanters may sit, stand, or engage in a succession of kneelings and prostrations or make repeated circumambulations in the temple. Frequently the intoning is accompanied by the steady thumping of the makucho or punctuated by the sonorous reverberations of the kaisu, when the heart and mind are truly one with it. This combination of chanting and the throb of percussion instruments can arouse the deepest feelings and bring about a vibrant, heightened sense of awareness. At the very least it provides variety in what could otherwise become a somber and rigorous discipline of unrelieved Zen sitting. In a week's sesshin few could endure hour after hour of just sitting. Even if this did not prove to be unbearably difficult, it would still doubtlessly bore all but the most ardent Zen masters, by prescribing various kinds of Zazen. That is, sitting, walking, chanting, and manual labor. Not only reduce the risk of ennui but actually increase the effectiveness of each type of Zazen. Dogen attached great importance to the proper positions, gestures, and movements of the body and its members during chanting, as indeed in all other modes of Zazen, because of their repercussions on the mind. In Tantric Buddhism, particular qualities of Buddhas and Bodhisattvas are evoked by the devotee through certain positions of the hands as well as body postures. And it is probably from the Tantric that this aspect of Dogen's teaching derives. In any event, the prescribed postures do induce related states of mind. Thus to chant the 4 vows while kneeling, with the hands in Gosho, as practiced in the Soto sect, evokes a reverential frame of mind less readily felt when these same vows are chanted seated or standing, as in the Rinzai sect. Similarly, lightly to touch the tips of the thumbs in seated Zazen creates a feeling of poise and serenity not so easily attainable with the hands clenched. Conversely, each state of mind elicits from the body its own specific response. The act of unself-conscious prostration before a Buddha is thus possible only under the impetus of reverence and gratitude. Such horizontalizings of the mast of ego cleanse the heart-mind, rendering it flexible and expansive, and open the way to an understanding and appreciation of the exalted mind and manifold virtues of the Buddha and Dharma ancestors. So there arises within us a desire to express our gratitude and show our respect before their personalized forms through appropriate rituals. These devotions, when entered into spontaneously with a non-discriminating mind, endow the Buddha figure with life. What was formerly a mere image now becomes a living reality with the singular power to obliterate in us awareness of self and Buddha at the moment of prostration. Because in this unthinking gesture our immaculate Bodhi mind shines brightly, we feel refreshed and renewed. In the light of these observations on the interaction of body and mind, we can now consider in fuller detail the reasons why Zen masters have always stressed an erect back and the classic lotus posture. It is well known that a bent back deprives the mind of its tension so that it is quickly invaded by random thoughts and images. But that a straight back, by strengthening concentration, lessens the incidence of wandering thoughts and thus hastens samadhi. Conversely, when the mind becomes free of ideas, the back tends to straighten itself without conscious effort. Through a sagging spine and the consequent multiplication of thoughts, harmonious breathing often becomes superseded by quickened or jerky breathing, depending on the nature of the thoughts. This soon reflects itself in nervous and muscular tensions. In these lectures, Yasutani Rashi also points out how a slouching back saps the mind's vigor and clarity, inducing dullness and boredom. This all-important erectness of the spine and parallel tautness of mind are easier to maintain over a long period if the legs are in the full or half-lotus posture and the attention concentrated in the region just below the navel. Moreover, since body is the material aspect of mind and mind the immaterial aspect of body, to assemble the hands and arms and the feet and legs into a unity at one central point where the joined hands rest on the heels of the locked legs, as in the full lotus posture, facilitates the unification of mind. Lastly, the lotus posture in which the two knees and the seat form a triangular base of great stability. Creates a sense of rootedness in the earth, together with a feeling of an all-encompassing oneness, void of the sensation of inner or outer. This is true, however, only when this position can be assumed and maintained without discomfort. For all these reasons Zen, as the embodiment of the Buddha's essential teaching and practice, has throughout its long history followed the Buddha's method of sitting as the most direct and practical way to attain emptiness of mind and, ultimately, enlightenment. This is not to imply, however, that Zazen cannot be practiced or awakening attained unless one sits in the full or half-lotus posture. Zazen can in fact be effective even in a chair or on a bench or while kneeling, provided the back is straight. In the last resort, what ensures success in the quest for enlightenment is not a particular posture but an intense longing for truth for its own sake, which alone leads one to sit regularly in any fashion and to perform all the affairs of daily life with devotion and clear awareness. But Zazen has always been regarded as fundamental to Zen discipline simply because centuries of experience have demonstrated that it is the easiest way to still the mind and bring it to one-pointedness so that it may be employed as an instrument of self-discovery. In the long history of Zen, thousands upon thousands have come to awakening through Zazen, while few genuine enlightenment experiences have taken place without it. If even the Buddha and Bodhidharma, as Dogen reminds us, had need to sit, surely no aspirant can dispense with Zazen. Kensho is but the first sight of truth, and whether this is merely a glimpse or a sharp, deep view, it can be enlarged through Zazen. Moreover, it is well to remember that unless fortified by joriki, that is, samadhi strength, the particular power developed through Zazen, the vision of oneness attained in enlightenment, especially if it is faint to begin with, in time becomes clouded and eventually fades into a pleasant memory instead of remaining an omnipresent reality shaping our daily life. What we must not lose sight of, however, is that Zazen is more than just a means to enlightenment or a method for sustaining and enlarging it, but is the actualization of our true nature. Hence it has absolute value. Yasuda Nirashi makes this vital point clear in these lectures as well as in his encounters with 10 Westerners. There can be no doubt that for most Westerners, who seem by nature more active and restless than Asians, sitting perfectly still in Zazen, even in a chair, is physically and mentally painful. Their unwillingness to endure such pain and discomfort even for short periods of time undoubtedly stems from a deeply entrenched conviction that it is not only senseless but even masochistic to accept pain deliberately when ways can be found to escape or mitigate it. Not unsurprisingly, therefore, do we have the attempt on the part of some commentators, obviously unpracticed in Zen, to show that sitting is not indispensable to Zen discipline. In his The Way of Zen, Alan Watts even tries to prove, by citing portions of a well-known dialogue, that the Zen masters themselves have impugned sitting. The following is our translation of the dialogue. Matsu was doing Zazen daily in his hut on Nanyueha Mountain. Watching him one day, Huajiang, his master, thought, he will become a great monk, and inquired, "Worthy one, what are you trying to attain by sitting?" Matsu replied, "I am trying to become a Buddha." Thereupon Huajiang picked up a piece of roof tile and began grinding it on a rock in front of him. "What are you doing, master?" asked Matsu. "I am polishing it to make a mirror," said Huajiang. "How could polishing a tile make a mirror? How could sitting in Zazen make a Buddha?" Matsu asked. "What should I do, then?" Huajiang replied. "If you were driving a cart and it didn't move, would you whip the cart or whip the ox?" Matsu made no reply. Huajiang continued. "Are you training yourself in Zazen? Are you striving to become a sitting Buddha? If you are training yourself in Zazen, let me tell you that the substance of Zazen is neither sitting nor lying down. If you are training yourself to become a sitting Buddha, let me tell you that Buddha has no one form, such as sitting. The Dharma, which has no fixed abode, allows of no distinctions. If you try to become a sitting Buddha, this is no less than killing the Buddha. If you cling to the sitting form, you will not attain the essential truth. Upon hearing this, Matsu felt as refreshed as though he had drunk an exquisite nectar. To his own translation, Mr. What's adds? This seems to be the consistent doctrine of all the Tiang masters from Huineng. The sixth patriarch. To Linchi. Rinzai. Nowhere in their teachings have I been able to find any instructions in or recommendation of the type of Zazen which is today the principal occupation of Zen monks. Evidently he overlooked the Zen teaching of Huangpo, where we find Huangpo, who died in advising. When you practice mind control, sit in the proper position, stay perfectly tranquil, and do not permit the least movement of your mind to disturb you. Surely this is clear proof that Zazen as it is carried on in Japan today was